Welcome to Jack Theology. Matt, I'm with my buddy Kevin.
It's good to be back.
Glad we get a lot to get to today. But before we dive into that, um, love for you to like, subscribe, share, and comment, ask questions. Maybe we'll address them. But if my T-shirt says anything, it says what we're going to talk about today.
I don't have
Um,
nearly as cool of t-shirts as you do, man. I'm loving the shirt.
I signed up to donate $30 a month to the Happy Givers, and they send me this box of goodies every month. And this was one of the goodies. And so before I got here, I was rummaging through my clothes to find this shirt. It was in the laundry basket, so it's a little wrinkled still, hadn't been folded, but I thought this is the perfect shirt for this episode.
I'm gonna have to look into that. I had no idea that they had that setup going. The Happy
Yeah.
Givers. The Happy Givers is a pretty incredible organization. Love their stuff. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, you should sign up for it. Yeah, shameless plug. Um, so yeah, kind of to set this up, Trump leading up to the election was saying he would mass deport, cut off funding for refugees, and he's done that in his first week, and he's lumped all the refugees, illegal immigrants, any migrant workers, any immigrant whatsoever into kind of one lump
Anybody of
conversation.
it feels like anybody of color, anybody who's not
Yeah.
white, has been lumped into this, and it's not just immigrants. It's also like criminals. Like every time I feel like he uses the word immigrant, he uses the word criminal, which is um it's not
It-
true, but I think
it's fake news.
yeah.
In preparation for this, I did a little research on it, and it's either the same or less. Crime rates is either the same or less than just regular American citizens. So they're not
They don't want to get sent
criminals.
home. They don't commit crimes. They don't
Yeah,
come
they
here
don't.
to commit crimes. Nobody. You don't go through all of the hassle of uprooting your life and your family's lives to move to an entirely different country, usually fleeing from some horrific circumstance or situation in order to go to a new place and cause trouble.
Yeah, you don't. And most of these people, I'd say, uh, you know, vast majority of them are coming here for legitimate reasons. They're, many refugees are kicked out of their country for political reasons, are escaping a war-torn country, are just looking for a better life because they're stuck in poverty and have an opportunity to be a refugee here. Many immigrants are similar. Many immigrants that aren't refugees come through the process, the borders for jobs and those sorts of things. And majority of the illegals as well aren't the ones who like swim across the river and come in here. They just are stuck in America for various reasons because our system has been so broken, and they
It's not.
now are undocumented.
It's not the jobs people want either. It's like they're
Yeah.
taking our jobs. They're not
Oh yeah.
taking. They're not
Yeah.
taking your job. You're not doing the job that the immigrants are doing, which is why we need people here filling. It's like you don't even understand the jobs that these folks are taking. You're not going to do.
Yeah.
We could. You. There's no amount of money that you could be paid in order to do the jobs that most of these people who are here gratefully will do. And so they're not taking your jobs.
No, they're not. They're not taking your jobs, and they're not taking your houses because they can't afford the houses that most Americans can buy. They're living in apartments and then in places you would never want to live. So like they're taking I've heard that argument too. That's why the housing market's so high is because they're taking our houses. It's like, what? No, they're not. No, they're not.
No.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, and I saw a clip of a farmer in stress that he's going to have to close his farm because his workers are getting deported. And he voted
Yeah.
for Trump. Like, you voted for this, buddy. What did you think was going to happen?
A large number of the crops of the food that we eat are picked by migrant workers or handled by migrant workers. Whenever you pray to bless your food at the table, you are praying to bless migrant workers. You're to bless immigrants. You're paying to bless people who are both documented and also people who are undocumented. Whenever you give thanks, that's who you're giving thanks for. Without them, the entire agriculture industry just cannot function, cannot survive. Whenever kids go to school now here, I had to fill out a whole bunch of paperwork about, do you work with soil? Do you work with produce? They're trying to figure out whether or not, the situation is a migrant situation so that they can provide the resources that are there for them. And you're right that the folks you're hearing this all across the spectrum here right now of folks who voted for Trump and didn't actually believe that Trump and his people were going to do what Trump and his people said that they were going to do. And now that they're doing it, it's hurting people. Like I read a story, saw an interview today with a manager of Home Depot. You go to a Home Depot in a lot of places right now, it's a ghost town in Home Depot right now. And the manager was saying, I voted for Trump. I had absolutely no idea that it was going to affect my business because the people who shop here most aren't shopping here because they're afraid of getting picked up by ICE.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's incredible. I mean, they warned us, they being, experts on the economy, that if we do mass deportations, our economy is going to suffer.
Which
And
means
we're seeing
everybody suffers. It's not just the
everyone's.
people who own stocks. It's everybody suffers. You know what's happening to the price of eggs?
Yeah, it keeps going up. I was told once Trump got elected on November 5th or 6th, whenever that was, that my eggs would start going down, and they've precipitously gone up. Actually, they've doubled since November 5th or 6th. So, he bottom line, he doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about you. He cares about himself. He cares about power. Um,
And
he's
so does the
cutting off.
people behind him.
Yeah, he's
It's
cutting
not just
off.
Trump doing this.
Yeah, the whole world, really, because it's not even just that. He's cut off aid to foreign governments. He's cut off aid. I was just talking to a gentleman whose son works for an NGO, a non-governmental agency that's funded by the government, that helps farmers in impoverished areas learn how to farm so they can feed their families. And he's out of a job now. They've cut all of that
All the
off.
funding today, in fact.
Yeah, it it's all gone. We're not helping anybody. So, ironically enough, it always works out this way in the lectionary, for this Sunday.
This past Sunday?
No, this coming
Oh, this
Sunday.
coming Sunday. See, this past Sunday was on
Well, that too. Yeah, both.
Luke 4. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
both.
What's
Yeah.
coming up?
Well, yeah, it's right after that. So you have that Luke 4, where Jesus says, "I've come to set the captives free,"
Yeah, it talks
and
about the
all of
oppressed
that.
and the marginalized,
Yeah,
the
and then he
widows
goes
and the
into
lepers.
he gives examples. So this week's he gives examples how Elijah, I have come like Elijah came for the widow who was starving in the desert, and I have come like for people like Naaman, who was a foreigner, and the Pharisees, the religious leaders, tried to stone him, because in all the commentaries say this, and it's explicit in the text, that Jesus was saying, I have come specifically for the oppressed, the marginalized, and with Naaman's story, the foreigners. And I'm told all the time online, because I'm not afraid to engage folks online, that I don't have the Christian view. Now, here's Jesus in Luke 4. I called it Jesus' inauguration speech. This is what my kingdom's looking like. He
Yeah.
says he's for the marginalized, the oppressed,
It was his
and the
first sermon that
foreigners.
we have on record after being in the desert. It was at the very beginning of his ministry. He literally stands up in his hometown synagogue, in his hometown house of
Yeah.
worship, just like the bishop did, just over a week ago in the National Cathedral, and speaks truth to power about the oppressed and the marginalized.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can look at the bishop and say, you're out just completely
She
of what
she
the
didn't
Bible
even
says of
make it
Jesus.
political. Like, I mean, everything. I believe everything's political, so she was political, but she didn't talk about a policy change. She didn't tell him to change it. She just said, "Have mercy."
She asked for mercy,
On That's
which is the
like
one
a
thing we don't
basic
want. We don't want
core tenet.
mercy for people who we are angry at, for people who we hate, for people who we feel like are doing wrong, or doing worse wrong than we are.
So now the right is I mean the book by Ali Stuckey, I forget her name.
Oh my
You know what I'm
gosh,
talking
yeah,
about.
Allie Beth
She wrote
Stuckey,
yeah, Toxic
toxic empathy.
Empathy, and then that pastor Gabriel or Deacon Gabriel or whoever said empathy is a sin. Don't commit the sin of empathy, like this bishop
Yeah,
did.
yeah. Was that
Uh,
Ben Garrett? Was that who did it?
yeah,
Yeah,
who blocked me by the way?
out at Brian
I
Swaff's
never.
church out in Ogden.
Yeah. Oh, maybe Brian Suave had him block me because I don't remember engaging that guy at all. But um, anyhow, yeah. So now empathy, asking for mercy and grace, the core tenets of the gospel of Jesus, what I preach every week around the table, the ancient truths of Scripture, grace and mercy, which is empathy, is now a sin.
Yeah. What a
Unbelievable.
large portion of Christianity in America is now practicing is not Christianity in any way, shape or form. It's just it's
Yeah.
not. I mean, whenever you vacate Jesus and Jesus' teachings from your religious faith, you no longer have Christianity. You have a religion, you have some sort of a faith, but it is not in Jesus Christ and it is not Christianity anymore. I just don't think it can go by that title.
I'm with you. I mean, Trump this week said he's coming to bring back religion, and I'm curious to what religion that is because it's not. He doesn't. He doesn't want Christianity. He doesn't want Islam. Certainly
No,
doesn't want the Jews.
he's coming to
Um,
bring back religion, the same man who wrote that god awful Truth Social post to the bishop over
yeah,
asking and encouraging him to show mercy in her church.
apologize, and sell your church. And it's funny that like how naive people are to how churches work, especially the Episcopal Church, is they think that Trump can fire her and remove her from that church. I'm just like, she's actually the boss of that church. She oversees it. She's not firing herself. Oh, that's so funny. Uh, People are so naive.
It's I think we're it's it feels like we're living in an alternate reality where now it's not the world, but it's the Christians, it's the religious people and the people who are trying to woo the Christians and use whatever power they have in order. It's like, is this even real anymore?
Well, and then the Old Testament text this week, which I think um, like hit me, struck me. I think it's for pastors and ministry leaders. It's Jeremiah, his call, where God says before the verse used for abortion rights, it's not even meant for that. It's talking about how God has a plan before time, and he's talking about Jeremiah becoming this prophet who would uproot and build and plant a new kingdom, like essentially uproot the kingdom of the world and point people to God's kingdom. And I feel like that's what we're called to do as ministry leaders. We're called to confront, as a prophet would, these ways of culture, and kind of go against the grain. I think it's important that ministry leaders speak out on this, and even no matter where you're at politically, this should be a very Christian value.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
should be something that we do have empathy, we do have mercy and grace. We speak out against that stuff, and so I think there's room for debate on how it all plays out and fleshes out with immigration. I don't want to get into that, but the just eliminating it completely, cutting funding. Like I know a guy who's in a neighboring town who's the primary refugee resettlement guy here in New Jersey, and basically he has a staff of about 100 people, and almost nearly half of them are probably going to get laid off because of this, because he has to now rely on fundraising, and government aid's gone. And so, and obviously no refugees are allowed in the country now, but there's still a bunch of refugees that are in the country that hopefully aren't getting deported, that they're supporting and helping get jobs, and they pay for their rent until they get a job and those sorts of things. And now those folks might be out of a house and home and all of that. So it affects not, he's not evangelical, but I do know evangelical pastors who do similar things and are funded by these government aid
Yeah.
packages that are they're out of a job right now. My former boss is out of a job right now because of all of this, and so it affects it's not just affecting the refugees and the immigrants. It's affecting so many people. Many people who voted for Trump who are now like, "Whoa, I didn't know this was going to happen." Um, yeah, it's all that. It's just appalling to me, and I think I don't know what are I'm like my
We
mind
should have
when
known.
stuff like this happens. Yeah, my mind when stuff like this happens is I just want to help somebody, and I think the one of the ways that we can help is speaking out against it and informing people. Um, so
Yeah, you talked about Jeremiah, and part of his call was uprooting. Um, Unfortunately, I think that the call now today is uprooting American Christianity. That is, I hesitate to say Christianity is toxic because I know that depending on the definition of where you stand in Christianity determines whether or not it's toxic. But I think American Christianity, evangelical Christianity, the type of Christianity that would put Trump in office. I think I can just say that that would have enough valid reasons to put um, what we're seeing now in office um, has to be uprooted. It's toxic, and the I just didn't expect this. Really, they were completely and utterly clear as to what it was, which means that you lied to yourself, and now you're getting hurt, and a lot of other people who are God's children are getting hurt as well. Or even worse, this is what I expected, and I want this. And at that point, I'm beginning to think, have you even read the red letters? Because I'm not
yeah,
sure that you have.
no, I see that too. Like people are excited this is happening, and
That what they want pain. Part of
yeah,
Samuel Perry in Oklahoma, professor there who works in Christian nationalism and sociology, so that he is. I saw a tweet from him yesterday, day before yesterday, where he has done a lot of surveys over why people want immigrants and refugees gone. And he said, a Venn diagram, those two circles and the overlap. He said the overlap between people who want immigrants gone because they don't believe that they legally should be here is almost a complete and total overlap over people who are completely and utterly racist against non-whites. So, at the root of this is not really they need to obey the law or they need to come here legally. At the root of this is not these people should be in their home country, not necessarily here. At the root of this, for almost 100% of the people who use those lines, is bigotry, is true racism. And I know that, a lot of people, that's not me.
yeah,
Don't
no,
be so sure that you haven't convinced yourself that you're the
yeah,
exception to the nearly 100% rule, that there is an overlap of nearly 100% there between those two things. And lack of care for the other, especially from Christians. If you can read the story of the Good Samaritan and completely jump to a way that exempts you from being good to people who you don't think should be where they are,
yeah.
you're the problem. You're the racist in the room. It's you.
I mean, that's a great point, and I mean, we're seeing it. I mean, ICE they're being given these quotas to arrest people, and so they're going into places where they assume there's undocumented people, workers, and they're just arresting everybody who looks like an undocumented worker. And that happened just down the road from us here, where we live.
Now, you
And
guys were one of the
yeah,
first.
a couple of folks who were in the American military, full citizens, served our country, were arrested for deportation. Now, I'm assuming, I'm hoping they worked that out, but they still had to go spend a night or two in jail till they worked all that out. Because ICE people were being racist. That's bottom line. Like, you're brown, I, I'm taking you in, and that's just unacceptable. I know
Yeah.
if Kevin and I were in that same restaurant, they're not arresting us. Guaranteed, we're not getting arrested. Why? We're white. We look like we belong, and that is so true. It is a racist
Well,
policy.
yeah, and whenever
Uh,
profiling happens, people it affects everybody of color. It affects everybody in the community, not just those who are illegal. Nobody
yeah,
who is of color is going to Home Depot. Nobody who is of
no
color
one feels safe.
is in public safety because nobody is safe right now. That's not
No one,
that's
yeah,
not who we are as a people. That's not who we are as Christians, and that's not who we are as Americans. Is to be that way to make an entire group or class of people feel unsafe just because there may be a few people in there. They're now hospitals, schools, churches. ICE is going into these places and removing people from. And think about that for just a moment. Churches in some of these places were considered sanctuaries that were off limits from removing people from. Think about that for a minute. You said, well, if they're illegal, I'm coming to the church service and grab people. Really? What if you're next?
yeah.
What
Well,
is the law that they're going to say, anybody who drives over a speed limit of 55 miles per hour, we're going to come into churches and come in place and take people are completely Hispanic churches have been completely and utterly decimated right now because nobody feels safe anywhere. And think about that. Not even feeling safe
well,
in a house of worship.
I thought the Quakers had a good argument. I mean, they filed a lawsuit immediately about it takes away people's right to worship here in America because they're afraid, right?
It's a constitutional right.
Yeah, and it's true. Like they they don't want to go. They're not going to go there because ICE will be waiting for them.
Here's the problem
And
with
so,
American Christianity doesn't care though about it. Birthright
no,
citizenship. It's like who cares what the Bill of Rights says?
yeah, the
And
14th Amendment that we made ironically right after the Civil War to make all the slaves American citizens officially, and we want to remove that. That's a very racist thing. That's going back to the pre-Civil War America, where we can just look at somebody by the color of their skin and say you're not American. That's what Trump wants. I mean, that's what he's doing right now. I mean, he's not even just wants it. That's what's happening.
he is being
And it,
supported in large part by Christianity in America,
yeah,
which is
uh,
evil,
yeah,
straight up evil, straight up anti-Christ.
it's the Antichrist. It really is. And if you're supporting Trump in this, you're on the wrong side of it all. I'll say that very bluntly. And the racism thing is a big issue. You know, a lot of people that are anti-immigration, anti-refugees, at their core are racist. I have to look at that data from Samuel Perry. It seems intuitive, but it's interesting that he was able to nail that. Um, and then a lot of people they defend this too. They might, if you can separate them from Trump, some people might agree with us in what we're saying. Um, if you can separate the national politics out of it and just explained, about Christianity being for the foreigner, for the oppressed, I think a lot would probably agree with us. The scriptures we use. But the problem is, and I'm finding this on social media as I interact with folks, is a lot of Christians see Trump as, I've been kind of saying sarcastically, the fourth member of the Holy Trinity. But they do. They see him as divine, as God's man, as put in place by God. And so in reality, whatever we say against Trump is to say we're saying it against God's word, because the word of Trump is God's word in a lot of these folks' minds. And so we are the devil. And so we get set. People say, I can't believe a Christian pastor would say such a thing. What? To have mercy? I can't believe a bishop, that she's not a bishop. A bishop would never say that sort of thing. And it's like, are you out of your mind? And it's because they see Trump as God, and to defy God in their mind is a sin. And of course, we're the devil. We're unworthy to pastor. And
Trump is a savior figure. He is a
yeah,
messiah. He is an anointed one. He's the one who they believe was promised and has been for decades to rescue America from the clutches of whatever it is at the moment, liberals, abortionist, leftist. It changes depending on the month as to what it's being rescued from. And yeah, that's a great point, Matt. Trump is being treated as God, is being treated as the second coming of Jesus Christ, the Messiah, to redeem. He's a redeemer figure. Um, yeah, so he can go out in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and guarantee everybody will explain it away as he had every reason and need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't stand up to Jesus. The problem is y'all are standing against the real Jesus and not standing up against the fake one.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. It it's divisive, and yeah, it's antichrist. It's the best way to put it, and I think most conservative evangelicals understand the word antichrist.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't throw that word around, but yeah, Matt, I agree. I have never seen a time in my lived history where I would look at something and say there's something that is more antichrist than that in my lifetime. I mean, you can't read the Sermon on the Mount. You can't read the parables, especially Good Samaritan and some of these other parables. You can't read the red letters or know anything about Jesus and say that any of this that is going on in any way, shape, or form would be supported by Jesus, even if these folks are breaking laws, which most of them aren't. And
yeah,
if so, the law that they've broken is what? Running and fleeing persecution and evil and maybe certain death in order to find sanctuary and safety somewhere. They're not coming here to kill your kids and eat your food, right?
yeah,
They're coming here to either try to live a dream or because they're fleeing from something else. And as Christians, is there anything more antichrist than harming somebody who's in need?
yeah.
It's the color of their skin. It's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. When you get to the
No, it
bottom
is.
of it,
Yeah,
the color of their skin is the problem, and we have justified it in every way possible in order to absolve ourselves from the guilt and the shame of our racism, of our persecution of people who are not like us white folk.
yeah. It's very sad to think about. Um,
We're doing it in the name of Jesus.
yeah, and this is what people see as Christianity. These pro-lifers who are so against life and reality.
Right?
They
Yeah.
they also want death penalty be federally mandated, and like you want to kill people. It's like what they're excited to go to war. Let's the whole manifest destiny that Trump's bringing back, which is very racist as well.
Yeah. All lives
And
matter until they're born.
yeah, let's take over the world. Let's. Did you see Eric Trump tweeted out? Basically, don't mess with us.
Yeah,
We're not.
Americans golden age or something.
Yeah,
You know,
we're
we'll
just getting started. We'll use violence, or it's like holy cow. Um, and Christians love it.
Christians are funding it. Christians are stoking it. Christians are fueling it. It is a Christian movement who has chosen somebody who is an antichrist to be its head.
Yeah,
This is I
you
don't
read
I
about
just
this.
I don't think that this is not democracy in action. This is not the Republican Party. This is a extremely toxic sect of Christianity that has become so political as to have chosen an antichrist, a Barabbas figure, in order to be
Yeah,
its leader, and is now trying to do so under the guise of doing it on behalf of Jesus and the teachings of Scripture. Hell no. Pick up a Bible.
yeah. Well, as soon as you bring up Jesus, right, they call you a Jesus juker, which I kind of want to get a T-shirt.
I think you should have one.
Juking for Jesus or something. Um, yeah.
We don't
Anytime
care
you bring
about
up
what Jesus
Jesus,
said. We just care about what we
no.
want Jesus to say or to
Yeah.
have
Well,
said.
that's a great line. That's exactly what it is. It it's I guess the desire for power and money. and influence is like kind of what Trump and his cronies and the movement has taken advantage of. But you're right; it's not a Republican thing. Like I think we're so far away from where the Republican Party is. I mean, I was laughing. I think I might have texted you when I saw what's his name from Kentucky, um, the senator who's extremely right, but uh, I want to
Oh,
say Paul Ryan,
Rand Paul.
Rand Paul. Yeah, he he sounded more normal than Trump to me, and he used to be like the extreme right conservatively, and now like he looks moderate. Like, oh, I take that guy over Trump. Um, yeah, it's not even the Republican deal anymore. It's really a new party has risen
It
and
is. Yeah.
taken control, and it's going to be here for a while.
It
I
will not
think.
end. It will not end with Trump. No.
I think. I think it'll only end with Trump until he's dead. I think he's going to figure out a way to stay in office. I see that coming. I mean, we've already seen congressmen starting to write
Executive order,
bills.
right? Just sign an executive order.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're going to try to get passed through that House and Senate to allow to end that two-term limit. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it's not going to stop with Trump because uh, it really wasn't started by Trump. It really was a movement of radical folks that have become more popular and grabbed onto the power, and it's a movement of the people um, that Trump's taken advantage of, the wealthy has taken advantage of, and manipulated the people.
Manipulated their hate and
Um,
their anger and their
yeah,
their our biases against us,
yeah.
and continue to do so. And we continue to let them.
Meanwhile, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Right there was a new data that came out that since uh, 21 over the last or 20 maybe since the pandemic, it was the billionaires have gained $315 trillion of income, and the working class, which is most of us, me, you, and the rest of us listening mostly, has lost the same amount of money. Like that's really fascinating. Um, and if you want to know Trump's motives, his real motives, follow that. Follow the money because that's why he's doing this. Is his own wealth, his family's wealth, and he wants. That's what he wants. I mean, even his last presidency, the fact that I don't know how people didn't see this is like he required all government officials to stay like at a Trump hotel when traveling if it was like in the in the vicinity. Like, come on, people. Um, yeah, it's just a grift for him.
Yeah, it is, and people don't care about truth anymore in the same way they once did. I think so many people on the left or Democrats, progressives, many pastors and church leaders, world leaders, the news are all trying to give truth and fact checking. People don't care about truth. Somebody said it, and I think it's true with Trump. And with MAGA, it's all about the vibes. It's all about the feel. Um, it's not that
Yeah.
nobody cares about what's true. It's not about that. We have long surpassed um, where a majority or a large percentage of the U.S. cared about what was true and what was right. We all said to hell with that. I don't care whether it's true or whether it's right. I want what I want.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it on this issue is Trump has conflated everything into one issue that we're letting criminals come in our country. We're letting criminals come into our country, and it's all the immigrants, the migrants, the undocumented, the refugees are all lumped into that. And you explain that to somebody and try to parse it out that these are all different issues that all need to be addressed differently. Um,
I don't care.
and no one wants to hear that. No,
I
they're
don't
all
care
criminals. They're all criminals. What?
because the root problem is they're not white.
Yeah. I saw one of my threads. Yeah, they're ruining our way of life. What?
They're ruining our way of life.
How? How? I mean, every
Your
every
way of
immigrant
your way of life
refugee I
exists. Your
met.
way of life exists and is only sustainable because of that group of people.
Well, that's true.
I mean, you're literally biting the hand that feeds you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and how many of like a lot of people. I know someone who's here because of an asylum request from a war torn country who keeps that very private. Very few people know. And I'm guessing some of these folks probably are good friends with folks. They have no clue what their immigration status is. And this person, is fearing for their life in that way, like that they'll be taken back. Um, and so they're uncertain, but they're white, have a nice job, contribute to society, are great people. You would never know. These folks would never know, and I guarantee you, a lot of them have uh, have friends and know people like that, and they're saying this stuff, and they're being number one, it's so offensive to these people, and number two, they're going to lose. They may lose these friends, and they've contributed. Like I guess that's where I was going. They've contributed greatly to their life here in America because of their friendship and what they've contributed to their personal life, and you're throwing it out there that these people are ruining our way of life and they're all criminals. It's like, come on. So yeah, it's sad. My heart breaks when I see this stuff. I hear people's stories. That's the thing too, is like some pastors are so adamant about not speaking out. They think, and some church people are too, and they don't like it when you and I do, and others, we're not the only ones. There's many others who do. And it's like, you give voice to people who can't speak. And I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me privately with stories of what's happening right now. And you know, I know we've shared stories with each other. And I heard one recently, somebody reached out to me that one of their like sister-in-law's mothers who lives in the area was just deported by ICE. And so for many people, at least in my specific community, my congregation I lead, are being immediately affected by this. They're losing family, they're losing friends. With people stuck at the border, just trying to get home, who are like on vacation, but because of their status, their immigration status, can't get home. It's sad. It's really sad. I mean, imagine, put yourself in those shoes. Like you're traveling for work, an American company. You have a house and kids and a life, and you're stuck in an airport because Trump won't let you in to back to your family. Well, how would that make you feel? But let's not be empathetic, right? That's a sin.
Yeah, it's toxic. It's toxic to care. That's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
How did these people become influencers within Christianity? How did we get to this place? It's
I mean, that is a topic we should explore. I have thoughts. I'm sure you have thoughts. I think there's probably a lot of reasons. Stuff like that, there's no one thing. But I know, anecdotally, me being a part of, the Acts 29 movement for a while, I saw folks go, you know, there was like a crossroads at a certain point, and then some of us went this way, and some of us went this way, and those why did we all feel a need to go a different way is a good question, I think, to ask. And I've seen some people that walked the other way from me that I knew that were at the time good people, um, now kind of leading the charge and being influencers on this crazy Christian nationalism.
Yeah, it's crazy. You and I have mutual friends who have been kind of sucked into a lot of this, and it's just it's terrifying. It's maddening. I was thinking of this Turkish proverb: "The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. For the axe was clever and convinced the trees that because his handle was made of wood, he was one of
Mm,
them." And I just keep thinking of so many pastors, so many Christians, so many churches who have been convinced to vote for the axe, to support the axe and the policies of the axe because somehow or other they convinced them that the axe was there on behalf of Jesus and on their religion. Um,
it's literally he's literally axing everything.
yeah, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And so the forest is Christianity is shrinking in America. It's in crisis because of Christians or people who once were Christians. And we've seen a lot of pastors and churches and friends who have gone down that rabbit hole because they had a weak spot or a soft spot in one area, and you don't just drink a little poison and only one area of your body get infected. Everything is affected whenever you begin to drink poison, even just a little bit.
Hmm.
Um,
I think there's a desire for some. Well, there's a desire just to be led because I think some people get so fed up. I mean, Nietzsche talks about this dystopian society where everybody's just fed up and throw their arms up and they're frustrated, and so then these fascist dictator type leaders can easily step in because and lead like here follow me I'll fix it, and so I think many get sucked in because this person will fix it. um, I think that's why a lot of not all but a lot of mega churches like specifically like John MacArthur and Mark Driscoll types build their churches off of folks like that just want to be told what to believe and what to do. And I think that's part of it. I think too is part of it is people want something tangible and real. They want um, they want to go somewhere. They want tangible, real. I think that's why there's like this in churches. I think there is a drawback to the ancient practices. I mean, you wrote about it in your book. I think we see more and more people deconstructing and kind of reconstructing around ancient practices because it's tangible. It feels real. You can touch it, taste it, literally, smell it. All of those things, all the senses are there. I think some of the evangelical church over time has removed all the senses other than like listening to good music or a good sermon. You're not participating in that. It's just very, blah. And so I think those are two reasons I think about, um, when I think about why we're here. The just lead me, tell me what to do, and then people want something real.
yeah,
You know, and Trump is real. Like it's a real thing. Like he's cutting funding for these things. He's not letting people in the country. Um, he isn't your typical politician who hems and haws and doesn't really do anything. So, like, he is giving people that for sure.
there is an authenticity um,
Yeah,
there that is in many ways refreshing. Um, it's also wooing. Um,
yeah,
Charlatan, the ability to charm. We are easily swayed as human beings, and Christians, I think, are even more so easily swayed than probably most other types of people because we come to life with an orientation of not having to see to believe, and so oftentimes we are able to discount what's right in front of our eyes and still believe. And I think that's what happens a lot with Trump now.
yeah. You're right.
We see it, but we ignore it because we want to believe we've convinced ourselves that something else is true or that he's doing something positive that outweighs those things. I don't think if you read Matthew 25, the sheep and the goats, You know, did you care for me in prison? Did you clothe me? Did you feed me? I don't think that Jesus is going to outweigh your support of those things rather than the harm that you're doing as being in the balance that you think it is.
Agreed. Trump, this goes right along with what you're just saying. He just tweeted out, "There's a bright light over the USA and the entire world since the presidential election of 2024." And it, people believe that. Like, I know, Matt. Like, yeah, but it's not gonna be that bad. It's really a bright light. It. Look, everything's greater. It's better. It's gonna be great. You just wait.
It's already that bad.
So,
It's just that you're white.
yeah,
It's already that bad. It's just that you are currently insulated against the chaos and the madness. It will not always be that way. It's coming for you.
yeah. Well, my one of my pastor friends who works with refugees made a great point today about that idea of you think you're safe, right? Like he was saying, the border czar was in Chicago and Newark this week, and he's like, those aren't border towns. Like, why is the border czar in Chicago and Newark, you know, going after these immigrants? And I thought that was a good point. He made that point. Like, you think you're here in New Jersey, you think you're, have a distance from it. You don't. He was just here, you know. And now, granted, the privilege of being white in this situation right now helps. But when is that going to stop? Because I think, you know, us speaking out, like one day, if this keeps going down this path, we will be in the firing line. And folks in the government that have spoken out against Trump have already been fired. Like he went in and literally fired anybody who spoke any ill will against
Yeah.
him.
Well, I mean, what is
You
it?
know?
That the new Hexeth or whatever the defense secretary who's coming in, has said he's going to remove all of the DEI initiatives. No trans individuals are going to be able to serve at any level in the military. And the final line was, it's his job to remove all of the woke people from the military. Which a lot of people are going to say, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, rah rah, let's remove all the woke people. All right, define woke for me. What if your
Yeah.
definition of woke does not match his definition of woke? Who's going to get removed? Well, what happens when it's not the military who woke people are getting removed from? What happens when it's churches? What happens when it's schools and it's your favorite school teacher? What happens when it's the grocery store? Who gets to define these things, and when is too much going to be too much? And why is somebody getting removed from their job for what they believe that has literally no bearing on their job? This is
Yeah.
America, y'all. This is not
Well,
us.
here's one that I think is interesting. So he got rid of DEI, which people just think that's reverse racism. You're just giving more opportunities to black people over white people, which isn't true, but that's the perception. So my dean, who I work with as a chaplain at Rutgers University, is a DEI hire by the Rutgers State University of New Jersey, which is Rutgers, and her funding is in jeopardy. The state may pick it up, so she's hoping that would happen. But Trump has cut all funding for any DEI stuff funded by the federal government. So the funding they were using from the federal government is now gone. And her job, although she is a black woman, but she wasn't hired because she was black. Her job has nothing to do with race. Her job is purely spirituality, to empower, to give students avenues, to point them in the right direction spiritually, to be the conduit. Like somebody has a loss and they need to talk to somebody, she'll take them to us as chaplains. She kind of is the go-between between the school and these spiritual leaders, us chaplains on campus. And it's beautiful. And I know every, Trump loving evangelical, if I told them that was happening at Rutgers, they would love that. Oh, that's great that there's somebody at a state university who's hired specifically to point people to Jesus. Like that's her job. Like somebody comes in and they claim, even Christian by name, she's going to point them to me. they don't have to go to my church, or they didn't even have to grow up in the church. They just say, I would love to talk to a Christian leader, and that's gonna in Trump's world, he wants that gone. And so even some of these good Christian things, and that's DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Inclusion includes spiritual life, religious stuff, and Trump is eliminating that. And so I think,
I could hear people saying, "Well, we shouldn't hire her just because she's black or she's a woman." Well, no, but okay, when was the last time you, white boy, from the Midwest, who grew up just down the road from where I did, when was the last time that you went to a black pastor for spiritual advice? No, you'd find the white pastor. You'd find somebody who was
yeah,
like you. When was the last time that you went to an Indian or a Chinese, woman for spiritual advice? No, you're going to best receive from somebody who is most like you. So you just simply wouldn't do it yourself, but you don't want other people having pastors and having ministers and having workers at a public university who are helping them find Jesus. You're the racist in the room.
yeah. Well, and the thing is like the position was created to cover, to for the DEI. She wasn't hired specifically because she was black. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, she's been a leader on universities as a chaplain for decades, so she's more than qualified than any white Trumper who's complaining about it. Um, but it's fascinating to me because that's one that like I don't think Trumpers think about. They just think about, oh, you're choosing somebody because they're black. They're not white, so we got to get rid of that DEI thing. And DEI, was way more than that.
It's
And
not affirmative action. It's not
yeah,
affirmative action, but that's how it's
so
been painted.
yeah, it's sad. And even that, like, I don't think it's reverse racism. I used to when I was a racist. um,
Word.
but the more you learn about hiring practices in America, the more you learn that it is a thing that white people, by and large, you know, you put some people's resumes side by side. The African American resume is better, but you don't know they're African American. I mean, there's so much data that they're gonna once they see the faces, they're gonna choose a white guy or gal over a white guy over a white gal, but a white gal over a black man or woman once they see the face, regardless of the resume. I mean, there's so much data to that. So I think even forcing companies to hire quotas of people is right and just. Um, but that's all gone. So back to racist America. I mean, it's always been kind of a racist country, but now we're just in the open about it again.
Yeah, we're not
And
trying to be our better selves.
yeah, and this goes. I mean, I'm listening to a book about AI, which I should send you offline, and he's talking about how eventually robots are going to take over the world. He said he kind of starts the book and paints a picture of like 100 years from now, we're sitting together in a field, um, and we're either sitting together in that field hiding from the robots, or we're sitting together in that field because the robots are doing everything and we could just chill in the field and enjoy life. He said it's going to go one of the two ways because already technology is learning how to interact with humans, and they learn our values, and they are value based. The AI intelligence is value based. It's not just like rote inputs from designers. They learn how to act, and they learn from humans how to act. And he said right now every robot that's been created they've had to turn off because humans are so mean to each other. I don't know if you saw Microsoft a few years ago, I think before Elon bought Twitter. They had a Twitter bot from Microsoft that they had to turn off after like 3 hours because it became so racist and mean and bullying.
Oh my
And it was
gosh.
purely learning how people were acting on Twitter, and that's how it was acting towards people.
Wow.
So um, we've got a long way to go, and the way things are going, it's not looking good. And that's a whole nother topic is AI and that technology and where that's headed and how that's going to change our world because it's truly that's going to change everything too. So, but anyways, I'm pretty ticked off at Trump and all his minions right now. I knew I would be, but here we are. He
It's
did
hard.
everything I
Yeah,
thought.
it's hard to see so many people in pain unnecessarily, and it's also hard to see leadership intentionally creating chaos and breaking the rules and the laws intentionally, just because they don't care. There's no there's no care for democracy. There's no care for ethics. There's no care for the humane treatment of other people. It's just simply getting what I want when I want it, no matter how I get it, and no matter who gets hurt. Um, it's really painful to watch that and know that there's really not much you can do about it other than just stand up and say, this isn't right.
Yeah. Well, I could keep going, but we should get to the fitness part of this show.
All right, let's do it. All right, here we go. The part of the show where Matt and I talk about fitness. You know, the beginning of the year is supposed to be like this big jump in fitness. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm still in the sand from
Mm,
December at the end of the year. It still feels like the holidays. I'm looking at the scale, I'm looking at the reflection in the mirror, and I'm like, oh my gosh, come on, Kevin, you got to find some motivation here. But man, it's hard to find motivation right now with all the stuff going on that we just talked about. It's just a lot of depressing stuff happening. I'm hoping you
yeah.
are doing better than I am, though.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Good.
I'm participating in dry January, although my birthday's in January, so I was not dry on that day. But
One
I,
exception. That's
yeah,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, and then set some, as I do every January, set some health goals. So I've been following those. I'm down about 20 pounds, around like 17, 18 pounds so far in January.
Dang. Since when? In January?
Since January, since the January 1st.
That's crazy, man.
Uh, yeah. Um, So I'm like at the weight or at the size where I always like at least the last I've been looking back at when because I write everything down like the last 3 years since 22 that like I stopped going and I just go back to bad habits. So
Yeah. So what's
I'm
gonna be
trying.
what's gonna be different this time, man? How you
I
gonna
know
how you
I'm
how you
trying
gonna
to
break that cycle?
I'm trying to resist the Trump depressions. I'm really trying hard and so I have a goal in mind. I want to really stay consistent until I get to with what I'm doing. Till we go to Charlotte with my kids for their swim meet in March. So their big swim meet. So I think that's what I'll probably just enjoy the trip, and
You
then
keep
see.
losing it that way, you'll be like transparent by the time you get to
I
March.
don't know that I'll keep it
We'll be
that
able to see
rate
through you.
because the first. I mean, even if you did it now, even at your body weight, the first week you lose a lot of bloat and the weight goes quickly in the beginning, but and then you hit kind of a lull. But
Yeah, where the body like starts fighting back for a few weeks, and
yeah, it's like no.
most people give up, during those few weeks because
Yeah,
it stops coming
yeah,
off. And if you could just
yeah,
outweight that hump, of two, three,
yeah.
4 weeks where it settles down, then it starts ratcheting back down again, and
Well,
it'll
I
keep
was
going
thinking
from there.
about, yeah, I was thinking about that, like, because both of you and I have had broken bones or torn stuff like recently. When they say like 6 weeks is like a normal healing, a bone is healed, and I feel like I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, I think the 6 week mark is really what you got to make it to, and then your body kind of gives up and resets, and you start to look different.
Yeah,
Um, and so it's like you really want to get to that 6 week mark. But yeah, so I feel good about where I'm at. I mean, I haven't been perfect, but I've been way better in this January than I have in the past few couple Januaries, so I'm happy with that.
A lot of times, almost perfect is far better than perfection
Well,
when it comes
yeah,
to that.
you do sometimes. You have to give yourself a little bit of a mental break, um, and then get back to it.
What is it? Lynn
So
Sweet says
sun,
everything in moderation, even
yeah.
moderation.
So Sunday I had
Perfection in everything except for
yeah
every once
Sunday
in a
I
while.
had pizza for lunch. I so I hadn't had pizza all month. I was like, we went to a party, birthday party, and I was like, and there was a lot of alcohol, and I was like, I'm not drinking alcohol, but I'm gonna eat pizza.
There you go.
So
I think now that the eggnog has run out in my house, things should start. So it's not the unleaded eggnog
uh,
either; it's the leaded
yeah,
eggnog.
yeah,
I think hopefully things will start heading in the right direction. There's got to be like
yeah.
10,000 calories per shot
Oh yeah, the
of
eggnog.
eggnog. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, yeah.
it'll kill you. Pulling out of, like you said, pulling out of surgery, pulling out of a major body Achilles issue has been tough. I'm still not really able to do lower body. I can't stand on one leg, on one foot. I can barely stand on one leg. I can't go up on my toes on
Oh wow.
either the one that was
Oh
the
really?
surgery was
Wow.
done on, or the other one, because I'm so weak from lack of really doing much on those. I'm finally now over the last week or two walking almost 100% normally, so my gait is almost good. So I think the next thing is slowly jogging, slowly starting to do loaded squats, eccentric motions, and some of those things with the calf raises. So I'm hoping now, because I'm still like on the Nautilus equipment at the gym.
Yeah.
No free weights. Um, so you know who knows?
I
We're
found
we're holding steady at least now. We're not taking
yeah,
on water. The ship isn't going down, but we're not
that's good.
we're not smooth
The
sailing yet.
Yeah, I had my knee thing in the fall, not as bad as yours, but I feel you. I understand. I'm slowly working back, but I found the elliptical was good to get a little cardio in because there's low impact, but you can get your heart rate up pretty good. So I've been doing that to save my joint, my knee. I did
Yeah, my
squats today, so I'm slowly working my way back.
my trainer wants me to do battle ropes, but sitting down,
Oh yeah,
sitting down in a chair, battle ropes. I'm like, come on, I'm not
yeah.
in a nursing home yet. I am not. I am not being the guy who's in the gym sitting in a chair doing battle ropes.
Or the guy.
Grandpa over there doing the battle rope, sitting down in the chair.
There's the bike with the hands, right? And I seen a guy the other
Yes,
day.
the
He's
hand
reading a
bike.
book. He's reading a book, doing one hand, then he switches. And he does.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
just might as well just read that book, buddy.
Yeah,
Anyways,
yeah. You'll burn more calories probably then.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, it
All
was good to
right,
talk to you
man.
this week, man.
Yeah, good to see you.
All right, take care. We'll see you next
Take
week.
care.